Today's video is the 1000 subscriber special episode. In it, I'm going to build this nice little display, paint up this Vanguard box set for the Slaves to Darkness Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and then I'm going to give it away to one of my lucky subscribers. Watch to the end for details. So, a little while back, I picked up a Vanguard box set for the Slaves to Darkness, and this is what came in it. We've got a Chaos Lord on a, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, Carrack Drake. So, comes with this. We also have a 5-man squad of Chaos Knights, and then a 10-man squad of Chaos Warriors. So, what we're going to do is build a display for them and paint them up with a traditional Slaves to Darkness theme, and then we will get them ready to go for a 1000 subscriber giveaway. Alright, so I found this frame at Michael's. It is a 12-inch by 12-inch wood frame. It's pretty nice. It was pretty cheap, about $10. So we're going to pry the little twine cord off the back that's used as the hanger, and then we're going to go ahead and get started building the display. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for this video being a little extra long. The display box here is about an inch in depth, and the interior is 11.5 by 11.5, so we're going to use these foam sheets to create a kind of sloped area that's going to go inside it. So let's do a quick little layout of where everything is going to go. I want a road to go through here. And what I'm thinking is we're going to have a high end and a low end. So we'll just quickly mark that out for reference. So I cut up the foam, and this is, sorry about my camera, it does not like white backgrounds. So we've got a flat section that's going to go on the bottom, and then this section I just cut a piece out of one corner, and this is going to go as the higher section on the opposite side. So now to fix everything in, we've got a little bit of a gap. We'll just add some extra strips to kind of fill out the section. We'll tack everything down with some wood glue and then leave it to dry for about 20 minutes or so. Alright, so while this is drying, I will get the strips cut out and glued into place. Okay, now that everything is dry, I took the models out and gave them a base coat in black. Just doing a quick little test fit. Ignore these little kind of ruined rubble things off to the side. I wasn't sure if I was going to do anything with them. I ended up deciding not to. So I'm doing just a quick little test layout to see where I want everything to go. And then using some little thumbtacks. These are made out of steel. We're going to magnetize the models so that they stick into the tray and kinda don't move. Now, using the flat end of a stiff tool, I'm using a pen or marker. I'm just going to flatten down some of the edges to kind of help create a little gradient. Now, as far as magnetizing goes, I'm using the strongest magnets I can, given the size of the bases, since they're going to go underneath the model, but they don't hold perfectly once everything is glued on top. So now, using a little bit of drywall putty, I am, well, it's actually more like drywall filler. I'm just smoothing out some of the edges and helping to create a more effective gradient that's going to kind of blend everything together, and also use it to fill in any gaps or block off any kind of evidence that it's set into a recessed area. Then, after cutting some bricks in half to make them a little bit thinner, I am laying out a simple brick roadway. Then I'm going to do a double coat of black paint and Mod Podge mixed together to kind of seal everything down and give it a nice hardened surface. Now I'm going pretty heavy with this to try and fill any of the cracks. This will help to kind of give a darker underlay in case anything kind of shows through or the top layer paints don't quite cover everything. Alright, so now we're going to do a kind of overbrush with gray from Artist Loft. This is going to create the kind of base color of the stones. This is also going to be fairly dark because of the black undercoating. Now, if you don't want it as dark, you could always do something like this with like a gray as the base coat, but I wanted a nice dark road. Then we're going to follow it up with a dry brush of neutral gray. This is going to lighten up the stones, but we're still going to have those very dark recesses. And then we'll finish it up with a very light dry brushing of warm gray. This is going to go on as many of the edges as I can, but I'm just kind of picking out a few areas here or there to kind of be wear marks on the road. So those little stones that you might have seen earlier in the video, I took them and gave them a paint and dry brush to kind of make them look like stones. And now I'm just going to fit them in with a little bit of Mod Podge. This isn't going to hold very well right off the bat, but once some sand gets put in, this is really going to hold in place and they won't move at all. So after cleaning the edges a little bit and make sure we don't have a whole bunch of glue spread all over, I'm going to add some sand. Once that's fully dry, I do a coating of raw umber mixed with Mod Podge. This is going to give a nice kind of surface coat. And then once that's dry, I do a dry brush / overbrush of raw sienna. Now, I'm not being super choosy about how strong or light to do this. It's kind of random. I want some lighter areas, some darker areas. If it spreads onto the road, I just do a quick wipe off to remove it. And then picking out some of the larger kind of rocky areas with warm gray to give a little bit of a ground highlight. So now to add some extra color, I'm going to take this flocking and a little bit of Mod Podge and mix it together to kind of make a paste. Now I got this flocking at Michael's. It's basically the Woodland Scenics kind of green ground cover flocking. Alright, so now I am using a brush that I don't particularly care about, and I'm just going to lay this down in a few patches on the sand. You want a pretty good amount here, and I'm just making sure that it doesn't have any raised areas, that it looks like it's just ground cover. And then I can also use the brush to add it to some of the larger cracks in the road to kind of make it look like grass or moss is growing up through the cracks. Now, using an extra magnet, I'm going to locate where all of the thumbtacks are and then paint them with a black dot to kind of blend in with the background, but also be able to locate where all the models are supposed to set. And then we can move on to the painting, starting with the Chaos Warriors. So starting off with some Black Templar, we're going to paint this over all of the armor plating on each of the models in the squad. I want that nice dark coating for all of the armor, but I don't want it to be so dark that it doesn't have any natural highlight from the underbrushing. Then we're going to use some Blood Angels Red to paint any of the cloth areas on the model, such as the cape and the front tunic, as well as any of these little kind of fur hair tufts. Now using some lead belcher, I used the airbrush lead belcher for this because it's got a much thinner consistency and it flows a lot better for tight areas and applications. I'm picking out a bunch of little details on the model that are just going to be simple things like the chainmail and the weapons. Then, using some snakebite leather, I paint up the boots and any leather straps, the hand grips on the weapons, and any of the belts. Now, using Retributor armor, I'm going to pick out all of the kind of embellishments and details that are around the armor or some of the iconography. And I'm taking special care to paint any of the chaos symbols in the nice bright Retributor gold. Now, using Iron Warriors, I'm going to do a very, very thin edge highlight of all of the armor panels, and anything that is metallic that has an edge on it gets this highlight. Now, this isn't super noticeable right away, but it adds a ton of extra detail for just a little bit of extra work. Now, using Cygor Brown, I paint the fur on the back of the cloak. Then, using a medium to heavy coating of Skeleton Horde, I go over all of the bones and horns on the model. Now, going back to the Retributor armor, I dry brush some of the raised embellishments on the armor and shield to give them kind of a slightly different gold appearance. Now, using some Null Oil, I'm going to go over all of the Retributor armor as well as all of the Lead Belcher to kind of give it a little bit of a darkened tone. Now, using Agrak's Earthshade, I'm going to go over all of the leather. And finish it up with some Druchii Violet on all of the cloth cape sections. And with that done, we're going to move on to painting our Chaos Knights. Now, starting off with some Cygor Brown, some of, but not all of the horses have a rather exposed belly that you can see, so I'm using this to cover all of the exposed skin on the underbelly, as well as any visible horse skin tones. Then, using some Black Templar, I'm going to go over all of the armor sections on the horse and rider. Since I just showed you how to do this on the Chaos Knights, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. And same as before, I'm going to paint up all of the fabric with Blood Angel's Red. Now, in addition to the cloak, the horses have this kind of horse blanket coming from underneath the saddle. I'm going to paint that up as well with the Blood Angel's Red. And now, using some Black Legion, I'm going to create the illusion of depth on the armor panels on the horse by painting an area kind of towards the center of the panels or towards any of the recessed areas. And then, using some Retributor armor, I'm going to paint up all of the embellishments and iconography on the horse and rider, as well as do our dry brush of the raised embellishments on the armored sections. Now, using Lead Belcher, I paint up all of the chainmail as well as a few of the small details and weapons. Then, using some Artist Loft Copper, I'm going to paint up a few extra details on the horse armor. Basically, it's just a few of these little rings and a couple of spots on the bridle. Now, using Snakebite Leather, I'm going to go over any of the leather strapping, the boots, the weapon grip, and basically anything that looks like it might be leather. And you can't really see it, but I also paint the saddle in this color. Now, using Skeleton Horde, I'm going to go over all of the bone sections and horns on the armor. There's quite a few on this one. I'm doing a light to medium coat as necessary, and in a couple of spaces I go a second time just to kind of help darken things down a little bit more. Now, using some Gore Grunta fur, I'm going to paint all of the hair coming off of the horse. And there's a few of these, and some of them get a little bit of an extra coat to kind of help darken in some shadows. Now, using Guilliman Flesh, I'm going to do a quick little touch on these kind of severed hands hanging off the backside. Now using Iron Warriors, I'm going to go and edge highlight all of the armor paneling. There's a lot of armor panels on this model, so it helps to add an extra little pop. Then use some Null Oil to cover all of the Lead Belcher chainmail sections, as well as all of the Retributor armor. Then using some Agrax Earthshade, I'm going to go over all of the bone and horn sections, as well as all the leather. And then finish it up with some Druchii Violet on the cloak. Alright, so that's going to move us on to the last painting, the Chaos Lord. Alright, so I wanted this to look strikingly different in a couple of places, so I'm using some Athonian Camo Shade on all of the skin tones for his mount. Now, I only do one coating here on camera, but I actually do 2 coats to kind of give it a nice pale-ish green coloration for all of the scales, and I really liked how it came out. Now using some Blood Angels Red, I do the same quick coating over the cloak as well as the cloth coming out from the saddle. And then follow it up with Black Templar on all of the armor paneling. Then using Black Legion, I create that artificial depth for the armor sections on the mount. Now using some Militarum Green, I'm going to create a little bit of extra depth of color on all of the upper ridges of all of the scales here. Now, what I'm doing is painting the section of the scale that is closest to the one it touches, as if it's going underneath. This creates a lot of extra depth of color and looks really nice once it's dried. Now using some Gore-Grunta fur, I'm going to go over all of these little fur patches on his cloak. Now using some Skeleton Horde, I'm going to paint the horns on the mount as well as on the rider. Now a little bit of Basilicanum Gray on this rocky outcropping on his base. This will give it a nice stone coloration. Then, using Lead Belcher, I touch up all of the chainmail sections as well as a few details and embellishments on the armor. And now some Snakebite Leather going on all of the leather strapping, couple sections on the boots, and any weapon scabbards that I can find. And then back to our Retributor armor, painting up any of the Chaos iconography and embellishments on the armor that weren't covered up with our Lead Belcher. Now using some Agrax Earthshade, I'm going to touch up the cloak as well as the Gore-Grunta fur. And then, just to add a little bit of extra depth of color, I'm going to go over the top scales, but not the bottom scales on the mount. This will give a nice color contrast and make it appear as though the top of the scales are extra hardened. Now using the Retributor armor, I'm doing a quick dry brush over some of these sections of armor paneling. They have this nice kind of cracking effect, and this is going to highlight that and make it way more visible against the backdrop of the rest of the armor. Now using Iron Warriors, we're going to go back and do our edge highlight of all the armor paneling and make sure to pick out any of these claw or gash marks in the armor as well. And again, this just adds a whole lot of extra depth and detail to the model. Then fix it up with some null oil on all of the Retributor armor to kind of give it that dingy, worn appearance. And then some Druchii Violet on the cloak and all of the Blood Angels red sections. And then finally, one last touch of Agrax Earthshade on the rocky outcropping. This will give it a nice kind of earthy stone appearance. And then we set this aside to dry, and we are done with all the painting. So now we can set these all out into the display. I have made up some bases that are themed to the display to kind of help give an indication of where everything is supposed to go, just kind of tie everything together. And I think these guys came out amazing. I am loving the paint job and the just extra visual that having them on the base gives. So thank you everyone for watching this build. As promised, here is how you can enter to win this display and this little box set. Go ahead and in the comments section type in #giveaway, and in 2 weeks on the 22nd of March I will pick one lucky winner from the comments section to receive this glorious box set. Thank you all for watching. This has been an amazing build, an amazing time on the channel. I cannot believe how quickly we got to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for helping support the channel, even in the small ways of just watching videos. You guys are amazing. Please don't forget to enter the contest, hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment in the comments section, and we will see everyone next episode.